So, just your name, your age now, and the rank that you have.
Yeah, well, Ned Talbot, former Sergeant E5, 68, I was 69 in May, 68 years old.
So you're in the Army?
Yep. Drafted July 7th, 1967.
What was your military occupational specialty?
My AAT was 11 Bravo, which is infantry, but my switched over 05C40, which is radio teletype operated, but that's not really so, but that's alright. That's what it says on the DD-14. I won't tell you any of the stories. Oh, yes, I will. It's past 25 years now, so I can.
So you're doing like communication stuff?
Yes, and crypto communication. All right. You want me to tell the story, or you want to ask a question, or which one? I could tell a story. You can get from AIT to Turkey instead of Vietnam.
I mean,
Story sounds good.
by all means.
Yeah.
All right. So when we finished AIT, infantry AIT, we were all in a bay waiting to get on a plane, and some of the guys were National Guard, so they knew they were going home. The rest of us, no one knew we were going, whether we were going to Vietnam or Germany. There were two places, Vietnam, Germany, that we thought. So some of the guys were really sweating it, crazy. All we could drink was 3.2 beers. So some guys are drinking cough syrup and making themselves sick as a dog. Some guys are freaking out, I mean literally. And some guys are just sweating, waiting. Nobody slept. Nobody slept. So they just woke us up and put us on a plane. And we still didn't know where we were going, except by rumor. You know? So, stayed in Germany for a couple of weeks at I call it a transfer station or something. Munich, Germany.
Oh, nice.
Some of the guys stayed in Germany. And then a small bunch of us sent us to Turkey. Nobody knows. What are we going to do? Be camel jockeys? That's what we call ourselves. The camel jockeys. Even when we got over there, we're camel jockeys. Because we weren't there, you see. You was no army there. But we didn't wear any patches. I couldn't wear this patch when I was over there. We could wear this. This is Turkish Land Forces.
Oh. So what unit were you stationed with?
It was actually Tuzlog Detachment 67, that was headquarters. And they had another one, 168, which was ordnance. It was small nuclear weapons, Armstrong missiles.
Ah.
Okay, I can say that now.
Yeah.
So we were attached to a Turkish infantry battalion, mixed armor and infantry. So in Turkey, I don't know if you know your geography.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So in those days, on the eastern border was the Soviet Union, and then on the southeastern border you got Iraq and Syria.
You got the Middle East.
Still the same old shit. So except worse.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same old shit, except
unfortunately.
worse. And we were stationed. Tuzlog means Turkish United States Logistics. It was actually the 528th Artillery Group in Germany. But no, it wasn't. But yes, it was. If you look it up now, it wasn't then. We didn't even know. The only guys whose jobs that we knew we were doing was the guy right next to you and the cook and the clerk and the officers. We knew what they did. But we weren't supposed to talk to anybody about what we did.
So in Germany, up until recently, there was mandatory compulsory service.
Yep.
So once you're 18, you had to go. And my father, when he was called up for how long it was, like maybe 1.5 years I think it was.
Yeah.
And what they used him for was Morse code interpretation for. What they had him do was there was these telecommunications in East Germany, and he was in West Germany. So they would be listening on the conversations of East Germany.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
Yes. Funny stories.
Well, we weren't supposed to do that, but we got bored because it was 24-hour shift. And they didn't have any bunks. We weren't supposed to sleep, so
you just
I used to monitor. I used to monitor the Russians. The sound was the only thing is in English. The rest of it was either in Turkish or it was all 5-letter, in code. 5 letters blank, 5 letters blank, 5 letters blank. So unless you knew the crypto guy, you were in crypto, you could decode the message. So I used to monitor tasks and listen to the task news, which is Russian news. This was during the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
So then I would print some out. Well, one time I sent them home. It wasn't very smart of me. Because my father owned a barroom in Salem, and he was showing it, and there's some Navy guys sitting there at the bar. And so I get called into intelligence and said, what are you doing?
So you were getting news.
I said, we're sitting here. I was making sure the radios and the printers worked. And they said, well, don't do that again. I said, yes, sir. I won't do that again. So I listened, but I didn't print any out and send them to anybody.
So you're essentially getting your news stories and news reports from the Russians.
Yeah. So that's when, at that time, I didn't really know the scoop on the Vietnam War and anything. I knew some. I knew most of my high school friends, more than half of them volunteered for Navy or Air Force mostly. One for the Army. But more than half of my friends volunteered. And I was in junior college I was a fuck up. And I didn't keep my 2.0 average. And I mean, actually, when I graduated from high school, I couldn't write English. I can now. So I didn't have a 2.0. So within 2 weeks, I was snapped up like that. As soon as I was on academic probation, bingo, my number came up.
Yeah.
But I was lucky because I did real well on all those the Army qualification. They give you a battery of about like 16 different tests to test your aptitude and intelligence in different areas. So then they select you out. If you didn't do too well, they sent you to Vietnam as cannon fodder. Basically, they'll just say it straight out. It's fact.
Yeah.
If you did well, they'd say, well, this guy is worth more than cannon fodder. We'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do that. And that's how I ended up here. You had to have a top secret, NATO secret, nuclear secret clearance. So before you were sent over, they interviewed your neighbors, the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
So the men in black suits literally came up to the door of your neighbors.
Just, I mean, it's in my files and stuff. But, and you had to give several references, and they would interview those people and your neighbors. Is this, what kind of a kid, what kind of a young guy is this kid? Yeah. Fortunately, even though I was a screw up in school, no, I got academic honors one semester, and that's another story. Where am I? Oh, so yeah, they do all that stuff. And well, nobody knew where I was really, my family. They knew I was in Turkey. No one knew what I was doing. Yeah. At that time, when you get out of the service, it wasn't very popular. So you get out of the service in the 60s. When I got off the plane, the only time I wore my dress greens was once going home.
Yeah.
No parades.
Certainly.
I went back to junior college. But I did say it was one of the best experiences of my life, worth more than a college education, because working 24-hour shift, you get 48 off. One time a month you get 3 days off, so we go to Istanbul. Once I went to Troy. I don't know if you know where Troy is. Kanakali, that's where Gallipoli was, but that's two separate things. If you know 1915.
Yeah, Gallipoli. The Battle of Gallipoli.
This guy here is Mustafa Kemal. He's known as George Washington of Turkey. He made Turkey a democracy in 1923. They call him Ataturk now, which means the father of Turkey.
Father of Turkey, yes.
And the Turks right now, they've got a dictator that wants to make it more, not a secular democracy, but a religious extremist one. And so a lot of the real patriotic Turkish people want the democracy back.
Yeah.
but he's a dictator essentially now.
Yes.
But not, this guy here is revered just like George Washington is.
Kind of like
He was at the Battle of Gallipoli, and he said he was wounded and saved several soldiers. That was in 1915.
I'll get you some credit.
1923, they founded the democracy of Turkey. The Constitution was based on the United States Constitution, but now they're going back. So the women could wear Western clothing and the men, and he encouraged it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now they're going back to wearing the veils and things.
Yeah.
I mean, in the villages, the ladies still dress conservatively, not with burqas and all that stuff. You know, a scarf over their head, just like they do in most Eastern European countries, and you know, that's fine. There's not, but the going back to that Wahhabi strict Muslim women can't have any rights things, and so big problems there now.
Definitely.
Plus, as far as they're part of NATO, well, they're playing two sides of the fence. They always have been, though.
Yeah.
The Turks. Anyway,
You guys doing any more? You got the vets here.
You can continue. Just because I'm leaving doesn't mean you have to stop.
You got some of the guys in.
recording me?
Yeah. Okay, there we
you didn't
go.
Tell me that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
All right, it's back on. As you're saying?
Fine. You guys can ask me some questions now, or I can wrap it up.
No, as you're saying, you were.
So, I mean, for me, I was straight as an arrow. I shined my boots. I did my brass. I learned everything I was supposed to learn and did it. Because if you fucked up, I can only say it the other way. You would, like if you did marijuana or hash. Good night. See you later.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that stuff there. The guys that did, that got caught, were instantly. I don't know where they went, but they weren't there the next day.
Yeah.
I had one guy hauled right out of in the crapper, right next to me. The MPs came up and dragged him out. I mean, I could smell the shit. I had one roommate that was smoking, and I said, so I didn't hang out my room. I hung out with in the next two guys' room, and at that time, because I grew up on the North Shore, there weren't any, what's the correct, African Americans. In high school, there was one family that was black, ran a dance studio, that was it, and the kid was a quarterback, but there weren't any black, in Beverly, so that was the first time I was introduced to, whatever you call it, Detroit soul music, and I liked it. So I hung out with those guys, and said, because I'm not going to hang out with the guy smoking pot, because I'll be screwed.
Yeah.
So it's best to talk, if you decide to join the service, I would recommend that you really want to do it and learn everything you can, because your life depends on it. It's no joke. I don't want to be next to some screw up that doesn't give a shit and breaks the rules. No, thank you, because I'll get in trouble too.
Yeah.
Except for the copying the TASS news reports and sending them home. That was the only, that was the only, what do we call it? I didn't have any Article 15s. That was the only reprimand I get. Well, a couple of others. They promoted me to acting sergeant. I had only been in the Army 12 months, so all the PFCs and Specialist 4s hated my guts then, because they said, well, you're the same as us. So I had duty NCO sometimes, and I had to tell the guys to quiet down. They gave me a rough time. They didn't want to listen to me, because after 10 p.m. it was lights out, no loud music. So if those guys have been at the NCO club drinking or come back from town, well, it's kind of hard to quiet them down. So they ended up promoting me to permanent sergeant and sent me to another place from near Chakmakli is near just about 20 kilometers west of Istanbul. And this place here is on the other side. This is on the Asian side. Izmit is about 40 kilometers east of Istanbul. They had 6 bases. I could draw a map. You know what Turkey looks like?
Yeah.
They had one right on like 20 kilometers on the of the Russian border. And then the other ones were protecting the Bosphorus. Protecting, yeah, right. If you shoot a nuclear bomb, what are you protecting? No, you're all dead. This is the other thing that came dawned on me because it says, well, yeah, okay, so this missile has a range of a huge. It goes 25 kilometers. Well, that's like 12 miles away from us. So if we shoot them, well, but it was to block the Straits of the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles from the Russian fleet being have access to the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one on the border was to, if once the horde of Russian infantry and tank battalions come rolling over into Turkey, well, we'll just shoot a few nukes at them and kill them all. So
That's a great plan.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, huh? Well, but you know, I'm 20 years old, so, but I study things, and even though that wasn't done on, you know, they didn't tell us this information, I figured it out. And a couple of times I was there during the Pueblo incident. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, I don't think so.
It was a Navy spy ship that was captured by the North Koreans in October 1967.
Oh, dear.
68, excuse me, 1968.
I don't think I heard about this. What was it?
Oh, Commander Busha,
yeah.
they all put him on trial for, they were captured by the North Koreans. They still have
it.
the ship.
They still have
North
it,
Koreans
and
still have the Pueblo.
And they'll say, yeah, look, we
Okay.
captured American imperialism.
All right, so this was, so lots of a few times, every few months we'd have a red alert. Well, the red alert, you didn't know if it was fake or real. You had to go through the whole procedure like it was real. Well, this one time we had the red alert, and they told us we have to destroy all the codes and everything, every single stinking piece of paper, and it had to be cut up because the codes were compromised. The nuclear codes were compromised once they captured the Pueblo.
Yeah, true.
So, but we didn't know. I didn't know that until after the fact. What's going on? All I knew was cut, chop, chop, chop. Because we were totally vulnerable as far as like nuclear. If we were going to use that, what is it called? MAD, mutually assured
Mutually assured destruction.
But that's a really that's a great concept for a strategy for war, isn't it?
Yeah. We destroy you and you destroy
Yep.
us, and that's why we won't do anything.
And we all. Nobody wins. Yeah, that's better than a stalemate like in the trenches of what do you call it? Of World War One.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. War of attrition. This is even better. Instead of war of attrition, we have a war of complete destruction. Brilliant.
Great idea.
So, I mean, I learned a lot, and in the off time, I enjoyed myself and saw a lot. I mean, because we were embedded, we had Turkish soldiers working side by side with us. We didn't always get along, especially we had to learn their customs, though, because during Ramadan, they can't eat until 6 o'clock. So we're eating lunch, and by 6 o'clock, those guys are kind of, they want to eat. So if we're throwing eating our food at 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they have to wait till 5 or 6. You have to be very careful, because you don't want, I know if I don't eat all day, I get kind of irritable.
Yeah.
So they're kind of irritable. So you can't really joke around with them then, or But we adjusted, and we would share their meal, supper with us. They would share the stuff, and we would share. But they couldn't eat until sundown. So you learn the customs, and these are just regular guys. They had 2 years mandatory service too, in Turkey then. I think they still do conscription.
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah.
Some countries still do.
Yeah,
Greece does. Does Germany?
No,
Germany got rid of it 2000.
The Commonwealth
something.
countries still do, don't they?
Switzerland
Britain?
and Israel do.
Switzerland?
Well, Switzerland's different. Switzerland doesn't
Australia?
have
5 years.
I don't know, 5
Switzerland
years?
doesn't have an
Yeah.
army.
Yeah, but it's like reserves or something.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
everyone's in the
It
reserves.
doesn't make much sense.
What do you think about that? I think it's a great idea. I think we
Great
should
idea.
have it here,
It's
in my opinion. How are you gonna, these poor guys that do 6 deployments, they'd have families now and kids, and they keep going over and over. That's not correct, that's not right.
Then again, it only works if you're fully. I mean, Switzerland doesn't do anything
Yeah, they haven't
overseas.
been
They
back
just
since
stay.
for
Yeah,
30,
that's right, they're
50
always
years.
neutral.
It's neutral.
But-
Which is a good. Which is
Yeah, well.
It,
Now,
it works for
I'm
them.
surprised that the Nazis respected that though, aren't you?
Really?
They did. Oh yes. Well,
Yeah, they did.
Switzerland was funny in World
Can't
War
really
II.
get rid of
What
it
they
now.
did was
they had the money.
they had their money. They opened bank accounts for the Jewish people, and then they died and they took the money. So
Yeah.
the Swiss
Wow.
were neutral. They were neutral, but they profited. They profited.
Yep, well.
The Spanish were neutral.
Yeah, because
The
they took.
Franco.
What about Portugal?
Fascism.
Portugal was family.
They
Was
don't get
fam.
involved in stuff like that. They just like to grow their wine, have wine and have their gardens.
They were just
swim.
there. They were
What
just
was
there.
that?
They were just there.
They just said,
Yeah.
whatever.
They just want to live their life.
Exactly.
You know? Fish, farm.
Well, regardless,
Great story.
I think, is there anything else? Any other anecdotes? Any other stories? Or
No, not really. Well, when we got home, they wouldn't. We had 3 blizzards in a row. Then in February of 1969, so we went to this Fort Hamilton, which is discharge, a transfer station. But they also had the housing, the same guys that get discharged with dishonorable discharge, with us, and we weren't too happy about that. Because we had 3 blizzards, so they told us now we're E5s, and they said, you got to shovel. I said, no, we're not shoveling. We all said, we're not shoveling, we want to go home. We'll walk home, we'll take a bus, we'll do anything, just let us out of here. Because we were officially out. And these guys that are getting dishonorable discharges or whatever, different, are in with the same bay with us, and this is going to take this off. So, I called my parents, it was Congressman Bates in this district, and another guy from Maine, it was Senator Muskie. We were home within a few hours. After that, they put us on a bus and sent us home. They said, you have to stay here. There's no planes flying. I said, we don't care. We'll take a bus.
Yeah.
Just let us go home. Because I had spent, the tour was 12 months, and it was considered a hardship tour, but I had the option, all right, let's just finish it up here. I had an OCS date for artillery officer candidate school. Or I could re-enlist, and they promised me Staff Sergeant E6. Or I could stay for 3 more months in Turkey for my 12-month tour and go home. So since I was NCOIC at communication in Izmit, I said, I think I'll stay for 3 more months and go home. And that was my decision. So anyway, I have an honorable discharge. I did my duty. I learned a lot. But over there too, I mean, not even 10 years later, the same guy that had the same position, and I know exactly the place, because when you go to town, you would take a bus or a cab to near the airport, Yeslakoi Airport, and then you'd go to Istanbul, you'd go to town. So, the Master Sergeant, and I found this on the internet through looking at people that served with me during that time period, and this Master Sergeant and 4 Boeing contractors were gunned down by radicals. This is 1978. 5 guys killed with AK-47s. This guy was probably done about 13, 14 years. I have the paper exactly. He was a career soldier. So, anyway, lots of the Turks didn't like us. Every time the 6th Fleet would come in, there'd be demonstrations in town, and we couldn't go to town. So we didn't hate the Navy, but we weren't too happy when the Navy came in, because that means we couldn't go to town, even if we had the weekend off. And these bases, we only had 30 guys at these bases, so it was kind of boring. And the only thing you could see for miles, there might be a sheep, some guy grazing sheep about 10 miles away, because everything was line of sight. There was no vegetation around any of these places. We used to walk from our barracks to what we called the hill. And barracks had one set of barbed wire. I mean, the whole military compound was probably about 25 square miles. So it was a tank battalion, Turkish tank battalion. You had to go through one gate. The hill had 2 gates around it. The outer one was guarded by Turks, the inner one by us. What was I going to say? We walked by the hill. Oh yeah, there were poppy fields. And near the spring, I said, isn't this beautiful? Look at all the poppy fields. Because I wonder what they're growing that far. Like I'm stupid, right? Well, one day, like this, because we'd walk up the hill every 3 days, all of a sudden, everything is brown and dead. And I know what poppies look like. Yeah, the flowers pass pretty quickly in the spring, but the plant stays green till almost the fall. Then it turns brown. Doesn't turn brown in June in 3 days. So there used to be this place, and I Because I had bought myself a nice camera at the PX, Aphex, because we didn't have a PX, Air Force PX. Nice camera, and I took a lot of pictures. So way off in the distance, I said, these drums, the different colored drums with a guard shack, 55-gallon drums, just sitting there all by itself. I wonder what that was. Wow. I can't prove it, but I think it's probably Agent Orange or some sort of herbicide. I mean, you don't have to be a genius.
Yeah.
Because I did develop migraine headaches that same summer. So, yeah, who knows? They just admitted that they used it on the DMZ in Korea just a few years ago.
Really?
So, yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Because that's the same thing, line of sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you hear about
vegetation.
the tree? The North Koreans went over the border to cut down a tree. So basically, what the Americans did, they went full force to tear down this tree, and they used helicopters and missiles to just target
they
a
could
tree.
hide a whole
You know,
Korean
better safe
division
was-
behind that tree.
Yeah, exactly.
That tree there, we got.
Bombed the tree because they wanted to show the North Koreans, see, we can bomb a tree.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. Nothing changes.
And all of us, like I said, except for the officers and everything, and there must have been a reason that they only picked, except for the Korea soldiers, everybody that was over was infantry. So when we had those red alerts, we all had our M14s. So, 05C40. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So these guys here, if I tell them my story, they say, oh yeah, look at DD-14. Oh, all he's got's a National Defense Ribbon or a Good Conduct Medal. I mean, one guy committed suicide in basic training.
Jeez.
Another guy went on a base, the armor at a base, took a model 45,
Good.
and shot the commanding officer. Didn't kill him. Shot the commanding officer, not this base. I was lucky because the other thing that I did other than buy a camera is I bought myself a pair of Corcoran jump boots, and shine those babies up so that they gleam. So the XO, Lieutenant Colonel, I went around with him to several of the bases because lots of these guys, they didn't know how to set up the antennas. They were just wires that you had to set up a certain length for the frequency and aim it so that you could communicate. It's really primitive. But all the bases had a small detachment of Air Force up on another hill that had the microwaves. Not ovens. Microwave communications, So then there were there was the coasties up there, there was the different places you'd have the Army security, you'd have Navy, and because I was not a bootlicker, I was a boot shiner, I got to see more places than most of the guys. So I had a good experience, and but I studied the communication stuff, and the other thing you have to qualify is something they call emergency action procedures, which is a euphemism for a chain of command when the president is the only person that could order a nuclear strike, and it goes from two guys. It's always two guys, an officer, and same thing with the missile silos, an officer and an enlisted man with the key. I didn't have the key, but I was part of the whole thing because you have to have the message to use the key. So
That's great.
basically that's my story. But I did get all my college paid for through the
GI
GI Bill
Bill, yeah.
afterwards. I graduated from Salem North Shore in '86. Took me a while because I started in '65. I'm kind of slow. My bachelor's degree from Salem State in '90, and I did a lot of graduate. I had about 36 credits for a master's degree in counseling and psychological services, except for the fees and the books, all through the GI Bill, which was a good deal.
Yeah.
And now that I'm over 60 and a senior citizen, I could go to Salem State for free anyway. If I wanted to. What I want to do is take the Endicott College Master in Homeland Security in the fall. Who knows? If it charges me money, they should pay me. Well, seriously, because, see, not everybody has a top secret NATO secret clearance.
True.
If for Homeland Security. Plus, I got eyes like a hawk.
Yeah.
Regardless, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
That was
welcome.
great.
Thank you. I hope it didn't bore you guys.
No, it was by all means. That was the complete opposite. Thank you.
Yeah,
That was
thank you. It was a
great.
pleasure to share because some of the guys there out there, because I mean, and I understand they are combat veterans and I'm not,
Yeah,
but nonetheless,
By all means, your
that
story
wasn't my
shares is
that
important.
wasn't my choice.
I'm just kidding.
See, you don't get a choice. Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah,
have it.
draft you don't have
You don't
choice.
get a choice of where you go. Even if you enlist in wartime, you don't have a choice
Yeah.
either.
You got lucky, I suppose, you know.
Yeah, so I consider myself fortunate though, because a lot of my buddies are either dead